Welcome to the November 13th, 2018 regular session for the Hillsboro School District Board of Directors. We begin each of our meetings with the flag salute, so please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we are going to begin our evening with a very exciting presentation, and the Board of Director, Mark Watson, is going to introduce a student performance for us.
Thank you. Tonight is my pleasure to introduce students from our Title VI Indian Education Program. These students, who represent many schools throughout our district, will present a Native American dance and drum performance. Every year, the Title VI program offers Native American dance and drumming classes to provide cultural identity and awareness for our students. Later this year, the students will be performing at cultural nights at several of our schools. Please help me welcome these Title VI Indian Education Program students as they perform for us tonight.
Thank you for that introduction. As Martin said, I'm Deborah Giles. I'm the project coordinator for the Title VI Indian Education Program. Title VI is a federally funded program to provide academic support and cultural identity and awareness for our Native American and Alaska Native students. Currently, we have 128 students, of which 42 state and federally recognized tribes are represented, each with their own traditions, customs, and language. Through our program, we do offer Native American dance and drum classes for our students to help fulfill that cultural identity and awareness. There are several different dance styles: men's traditional, fancy, hoop, and grass; women's traditional, jingle, and fancy. Our students are dressed in their regalia tonight. It represents their dance style, their family, their tribe. A dancer's regalia is never complete. They are always adding elements to it, maybe making it themselves, or a family member may add it, to it, or they may be gifted items from an older dancer to encourage them to continue dancing. November is Native American Heritage Month, so I am pleased to present our Native American dancers, accompanied by Mr. Harold Paul, our drum instructor, who comes to us twice a month to teach the students drumming and the history and the significance of the drum. And as a bonus, the students are going to drum and sing for you tonight also.
Oh,
So the students are going to introduce themselves, their tribe, their school for you now.
My name is Salsa.
What school? What tribe?
I go to McKinney School, Tribal,
Select? Are you Select?
Select. My name's Bailey, and our tribe is Select, and I go to McKinney Elementary.
Good evening, my name is Tate Allen. I go to Evergreen Middle School. My tribe is Navajo, and I'm 14 years old.
My name is Mabel. I'm 11 years old. I go to Brother K, and my tribe is Potawatomi Citizen Band. Hello, my name is Mina Forrest. I go to Jackson School. My tribe is Pitt River, and I am 9 years old. Hello, my name is Jackson Bigham. I am 10 years old. I am part of the Yavapai Apache Nation in Tawa, and I go to Jackson. Hi, my name is Anna Bigham, and I go to Jackson School. I'm 8 years old, and my tribe is Yavapai Apache in Tawa.
Hello, my name is Grayson Forrest. I go to Jackson Elementary School. I am 11 years old, and I my tribe is Pit River.
So my name is Harold. I'm the lead singer for Four Directions Drum, and been working with the kids for about 3 years now. So gonna enjoy working with them again this year. Thank you.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Hey, can we gather you for a shot real quick? With you and the drummer as well? Can you guys cluster up for me? Thank you. All right, we'll do two. Can't quite see your face, honey. There we go. All right. Big smiles. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for that special performance. We now are going to have a special recognition with the director of local. Good evening. It is my pleasure tonight to have a special recognition for Anthony Tony Sequoia, a long-term substitute for the Hillsboro School District, who was nominated and selected as the October Substitute of the Month for Education, Staff, and Student Workforce, the region that includes Oregon, New Mexico, and Utah. Hillsboro High School Office Manager Diana Farlow nominated Anthony for his award because of his enthusiasm and dedication to Hillsboro High School. Anthony has filled multiple long-term substitute positions at Hillsboro High School since the 2017-18 school year. Anthony is reliable and knows the students and staff well. They love working with him and want to recognize him for being a valuable asset to the school and honor him for everything he does for students and staff. I would like to welcome Melissa Merritt, ESS HR Manager, to present this.
I just want to give a little background. I met Tony when I was substituting in a long-term position. I was doing special ed, and he was a social studies substitute in a long-term position. So I was very excited to see his nomination and find out that he was the substitute of the month for October, so I could honor him because I know from firsthand experience his dedication to students and to the schools that he's working in. So Tony, if you'd like to come up, I have a little lunch box filled with some goodies and treats for you. Thank you. And one more.
Let's give another round of applause to Tony. You can see. Thank you. All right, we will move right along to item C on our agenda, which means that I'm ready to hear a motion. Motion to approve our agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as written. Second.
So it's been moved by Mark and seconded by Martin that we approve our agenda as printed. Is there any discussion? All right, if you would like to approve the agenda as printed, as moved by Mark and seconded by Martin, please say aye.
Aye.
If not, please say no. The agenda is approved. Thank you. All right, we are now at audience time. Val, have you received any
Maya.
Audience cards. So I'll just kind of explain audience time. If you're interested in speaking to the board, you can find a card on the back table there. You can turn it into Val Bachma. We reserve the beginning of our meetings to hearing any concerns or awesome stories. And it looks like this evening we have none. So thank you very much. That brings us to item E, reports and discussion. Parent Advisory Committee report. Olga et al., come on down. Or don't. It's your turn. Are you ready? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Waiting for audience.
Yeah. You're very efficient this evening.
Yeah, I see that. Good evening, members of the board and staff. I will be providing my own interpretation, so please bear with me. Buenas noches, miembros de la mesa directiva y personal del distrito. It is an honor to stand here before you as your Director of Federal Programs. My name is Olga Acuña. Es un honor estar aquí ante ustedes como Directora de Programas Federales. Mi nombre es Olga Acuña. And I am here to introduce 3 members of the PAC who are here to share their secret in regards to how they are mentoring parents in our district, in our schools, and how they are multiplied. Estoy aquí para presentarles a 3 miembros del PAC, quienes nos compartirán sus secretos en cuanto a cómo se están multiplicando y cómo están mentoreando a padres del distrito. I would like to introduce them first, and then they will take the mic from here. Marisol Cariño from, she is representing West Union and Liberty High School. Maritza Sosa is representing Three Orchards and Evergreen Middle School. And Elizabeth Garcia Romero is representing Mulberry, Pointer, and Liberty High School. Marisol will take it from here.
Buenas noches, miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Marisol Cariño y voy a hablar sobre el propósito de PAC.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Marisol Cariño, and I will be talking about the purpose of PAC.
Como pueden ver, el propósito de PAC es colaborar con el personal del distrito y con las diferentes escuelas y asegurarnos de que las familias tengan acceso a los servicios existentes.
As you can see, the purpose of PAC is to collaborate with personnel from the district and also with the different schools and make sure that the families have access to the services that exist.
Otro propósito más es fomentar y apoyar el liderazgo en el involucramiento familiar.
Another purpose is to support this leadership and that is happening with family engagement.
Buenas noches, miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Maritza Sosa y como pueden ver aquí las metas del PAC es apoyar y colaborar con los diferentes PACs de las escuelas, también proveer mentoría a los diferentes PAC y seguir colaborando con la mesa directiva.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Maritza Sosa, and as you can see here, the PAC goals are to support, collaborate with different PACs at school levels, also to provide mentorship to the different PACs and help collaborate with the board of directors.
Muy buenas noches, miembros de la mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Elizabeth García Romero.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Elizabeth Garcia Romero.
Yo voy a hablar sobre los logros de PAC. En este año se formaron 7 nuevos comités en las escuelas. Esta es la lista de las escuelas y como pueden ver, se establecieron estrategias para colaborar con PTO, PTA y otros grupos de padres.
I'm going to talk about the accomplishments of PAC. In this year, 7 new committees were formed at the school level. As you can see here by this list, these are the schools. You will also see that we have worked on establishing strategies to collaborate with PTO, PTA, and other groups of parents.
También establecimos una mejor relación con la mesa directiva y se establecieron estrategias. Participamos en diferentes paneles. talleres y comités a nivel del distrito, estatal y nacional. También colaboramos en la evaluación de la escuela de verano.
We've also established a better relationship with the board of directors and established strategies. We have participated in different panels, workshops, and committees at district, state, and national levels. We've also collaborated to evaluate the summer school program.
En la siguiente diapositiva vamos a hablar sobre cómo promovemos el involucramiento familiar y el liderazgo para nosotros es muy importante porque como padres y líderes nos preparamos para participar en PAC y aprender más acerca de cómo navegar el sistema escolar.
On the next slide, you'll see we're going to talk about family engagement. The leadership for us is very important because as parents and leaders, we're preparing ourselves to participate in PAC and to learn more and about how to navigate the school system.
Nos damos cuenta que la necesidad ahora en día es más grande. En nuestras escuelas necesitamos promover un alto nivel de involucramiento en cada una de ellas para poder abogar por las necesidades de nuestros hijos y de nuestras familias.
We are aware that in this day and age, the needs are bigger. So we need a higher level of involvement in each of our schools so that we can advocate for those needs of our children and our families.
Bueno, pues aquí tenemos una tabla, la siguiente gráfica, diapositiva, perdón, sobre el personal de enlace para el involucramiento familiar en las diferentes escuelas.
Okay, so here we have a table on the next slide about the personnel, the outreach personnel that help with family engagement in the different schools.
Tenemos 18 personas de enlace que están distribuidas en los diferentes niveles. Como ustedes pueden ver, tenemos las escuelas primarias, secundarias y preparatorias.
We have 18 personnel that work in outreach that are distributed in the different grade levels. As you can see, we have people at the elementary school, the secondary, and the high schools.
En la siguiente tabla nos muestran los asesores de graduación del programa migrante. Este año tuvimos la suerte de añadir a 4 asesores de graduación en las escuelas secundarias.
So on the next table, you'll be able to see the graduation coaches of the migrant program. This year, we were able and fortunate to add 4 grad coaches at this middle schools.
Más de la mitad de las escuelas tienen un personal de enlace, así que podemos tener mayor información y distribución de la misma. En Hill High se le dio más apoyo porque tienen más estudiantes del programa migrante y tiene aún más necesidad.
So more than half the schools have an outreach person, and as you can see, this will allow us to get more information out and distribute it. At Hill High, there was more help given because they have more migrant program students, and there was more need.
Esto,
That's all.
¿alguna pregunta?
Do you have any questions?
Let me go back a couple of slides. We missed that one that shows parent participation for last year. We are hoping that we can continue to track and document participation this year so that we can show you a comparison in 18-19. So you will be able to see a comparison, a two-year comparison.
Excellent. We do have a couple of questions. Mark, I saw you first.
Thank you guys for coming tonight. I think last year or earlier this year, we had, wasn't a joint meeting, but members of the district level PAC and the school board met upstairs. We hosted you guys. Is there any consideration of doing that again?
What was the end of your question? I'm sorry.
Is there any consideration to do that again this year?
Hay consideración para volver a hacer esto.
Por supuesto, nos encantaría mucho poder colaborar juntos y sí, pudiéramos agendar una reunión.
Yes, we'd love to continue collaborating with you, and we would love to put that on our calendars. Erica?
Buenas noches. Quería preguntar si podían hablar acerca de ¿En qué formas están trabajando con los padres para desarrollar ese liderazgo? Si son talleres o si podrían hablar un poquito, explicar un poquito más del trabajo que se está haciendo acerca de eso.
Good evening. I'd like to ask you guys about how you are working with parents on their leadership. Are you doing workshops? Can you explain a little bit more about what that looks like?
Claro que sí, nosotros estamos apoyando mucho a los PACs de las diferentes escuelas. Al inicio escolar se da un taller general para todos los líderes y de esa manera nosotros vamos proveyendo información y vamos indicándole por qué es lo que tienen que hacer. En este caso, si hay que formar comités, se les apoya de qué manera pueden ir formando.
Yes, so the way that we do that is at the beginning of the school year, we offer a workshop for all of the school leaders, and we help them and we decide what it is that they need. Are they just starting a PAC? Do we help them in beginning the PAC and how they continue on?
Y finalmente se hace una otra reunión para ver en cómo han estado trabajando y de qué manera se puede seguir ayudando.
And then we do a follow-up meeting with them to see how they've been working and how we can continue to support them.
So good evening, thanks for being here tonight, appreciate it. The PAC has grown from school to school quite a bit over the last 2 years. What has been the most effective thing you've done in order to gain participation and to create PACs at a variety of different schools?
Claro que sí, es el apoyo que se les brinda a los padres, la mentoría, el interés que tienen los padres de conocer cómo navegar el sistema escolar.
Of course, so it's the mentoring that we give the parents, the support that we give them, and it's the parents wanting to learn how to navigate the school system.
Hay muchos padres que tienen mucho interés y no saben cómo acercarse a las escuelas, a los grupos de PAC ya organizados, entonces cuando tenemos reuniones se les da un poco de información, entra curiosidad y es cuando ahí los alcanzamos.
So a lot of parents want to learn how to participate in the schools and be involved in the schools, and they just don't know how, but they're curious about it. So at our general meetings, we share that information with them, and so it's their curiosity that makes them to participate.
I'm going to try, okay. 7 nuevo, ¿cuántas escuelas tienen una PAC este día?
7 PACs. How many schools have a PAC? ¿Tiene 7 nuevos PACs? ¿Cuántas escuelas tienen un PAC?
Actualmente tenemos 9 PACs formados. Estamos trabajando para poder formar en escuelas secundaria y preparatoria.
So right now we have 9 schools that have a PAC, and we are working to have PACs at the middle and high schools.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. We love having you guys here to give us updates, and I think that we'll try to get a joint meeting scheduled this year. All right, we are item E2, Transportation Department report with Pat and Carol. Thank you.
I'm honored tonight to present next to my colleague Carol. We're here to give an update about an innovative strategy that Carol and her team have created to support our expansion of career and college pathways for students in Hillsboro. We talked earlier tonight and learned from Adam about the expansion of programming in specific high schools, and one of our concerns over the years. Who's clicking? Is there one?
Clicker?
We can have a clicker.
I think Olga did have it. She got her coffee.
Sorry. School's up. So as you know, we're doing doing some rebranding and some communicating about what programming is available for career and college pathways in Hillsboro. It's our nifty new logo. And sharing with our community the different programs that exist, asking for industry partners to support our programs. But a big problem for us has been, how do we make sure that students...
That's why.
Who's clicking?
Who's clicking now?
That's why I did it.
We've been worried about how to get all students equitable access to our programs. Depending on where you live, last year you were sort of restricted to the number of programs you could access, and this year we're doing something a little different. So Carol will tell you about the logistics and ingenuity of this new structure.
Good evening. I sat down with our routers. We have two routers, Tabby Harper and Teresa Davis. And we had been struggling with this issue for several years. We have had in the past onesie, twosie kids needing to go to the high schools or to a different school to pick up a class. So it kind of got to the point that we had to come up with a system that would work and coordinate times. So basically what they did is they sat down and we took the district as a whole in between the 4 high schools to find a sort of a center, what we call the hub. And when we did that, we came up with actually the tennis courts at the fairgrounds. Thank you, my assistant. So that's kind of what we came up with, is the hub. From there, what we did is we started out with 1 bus from each high school. And the first year we did it, we did not have our current high school schedule. So what we discovered is that students would either have to miss a little bit before class or after class, because at the high school they only have a 5-minute pass time and you cannot get across town in 5 minutes. Then this year they started with the block schedule, and now what that enables us to do is run these transit model shuttles, we call them. So if you think of like TriMet, if you want to go from here across Portland, you go to a central location, you change to get on a different bus, and that takes you to your destination. And that's basically what we started. So during several times of the day, there's 1 bus for each high school. We'll leave the high school, go to the hub site, the kids will get off there, transfer, get onto the bus going back to what we call their visiting high school, and then they will go there. Then we'll do that reverse. And right now we're running about 3 to 4 different shuttles. We have also recently included now a 5th bus for fire science to go to the North Plains Fire Department. And it actually starts at the hub site. The kids from the 4 high schools get on it from there, goes to the fire station, and then comes back and does the opposite. So that, in a nutshell, is our hub system.
So last spring, students forecasted to be selected into one of the possible condensed block spots so that we could adjust staffing and figure out how many students were going to be showing up at another campus. We have right now about 95 students accessing programming from fire science and auto tech, which are the largest participants from other schools transferring to the program, down to game design at Century and American Sign Language at Hill High. We also have 4 students accessing mariachi at Hill High, which are those kind of fringe benefits of having this shuttle available to students who can hop on and access academic programming, electives, and CPE. You might have seen us in the Look Inside, which featured an item which I've been carrying around in my backpack, which I'm very proud of.
We're so surprised!
You might be surprised to see this tonight. There was a certain level of anxiety that we had as leaders about that first day of school and where are the students going to line up and how does the bus know where to pull up to pick them up. So we zip tied, and by we I mean me, zip tied with Casey's permission, these signs at strategic spots where principals told us was the best spot to have students congregate. And our goal was to have sort of like a transit sign look with a schedule on it where parents and students could understand this is what we're doing and here's where students can travel. So we'll make improvements to this as we figure out what we need to iron out in the system. And we hope that more students participate, and with more participation will become a more efficient transit model. Happy to answer any questions tonight.
we will have some, starting with Jackie.
I just want to thank you because I know the logistical nightmare that you took on when you decided to do this, so thank you. I think it's absolutely wonderful. I can't imagine it not growing and just getting bigger. I think it's a great opportunity for our students, so thank you both.
Thanks.
Mark?
I'm sure it's impossible to know for sure, but like the four mariachi, the American Sign Language, the game time, are we pretty sure that the shuttle spurred that participation? That are we seeing more kids enrolling in classes in other high schools because of it?
From the busing perspective, I think it has. In the past, the main two courses that kids have utilized is auto tech and fire science. Other than that, it was just one kid here, one kid there trying to get to a math class or something. So I do think that it has started to open it up. And we can tell by the numbers of ridership that the kids are really starting to latch on to the concept and are able to, I think, utilize it beyond even what we are anticipating for them to reach a class.
Is the condensed block generally longer CTE type class, or I think at the beginning of the year I asked the same question. Are we in a situation where a student can start their day at Century, go take a auto tech class at Hill High, and because they're there and there's no time to be back, take a calculus class there or something? Are we doing any of that or no?
I haven't heard of that yet. Mostly we know that students are going to theoretically auto tech and then back to Century for lunch in the second half of the day. That wouldn't be an impossibility. We've talked about that with counselors and registrars. Can we allow students to just spend the rest of the afternoon?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit, as people get more comfortable with the fluidity, it's going to take some time to catch on.
Yeah. Good question.
Jessica?
I just wanted to come in on behalf of the students and say thank you, because I know talking a lot to my peers and everyone that having these classes, especially the auto tech, especially essentially a lot of students want to take that, and they're really thankful that they now have this opportunity. So I just wanted to reiterate that we're thankful and this is really making an impact on us.
Thank you very much.
I was just wondering what you were doing, since this is kind of a new thing, to market this, especially for, students are coming into high school or knowing that this is an opportunity that they can partake in.
Thanks. We talked about this at our steering committee. We had a great meeting last week of a lot of industry partners and higher ed partners who help us define our career and college pathways. And one of the big feedback items that we hear is communication. So I think a couple of things we'll do this winter are in those career nights and forecasting nights, really go heavy with a push to make people aware of the programming that exists and to help students identify, sometimes with their counselor they're having that conversation, sometimes with their teachers, sometimes with their parents, what programs would be of interest to you and what your future career aspirations might be. So we also are using media and opportunities out in the community, especially through business partners, to make people aware of how much we're putting into developing clear and viable pathways for all students to be able to access. I think in the past we had the perception that X number of students were involved in CTE and then everybody else just did the requirements. And I think we're really shifting that where I'd say most students would identify that they're involved in some sort of a career pathway at this point.
We have two more. I have a lot of stuff to say, but I'm going to just say a couple of things. First of all, this is not the first meeting that Assistant Superintendent Ryan has brought his shuttle sign, so I just wanted to let everyone know what he does. In fact, carry that around with him. And so I just thought that should be on record. And then the second thing is, I think this is a really great example of the out-of-the-box, pie-in-the-sky kind of dream that you bring Travis to our district that I think we all really appreciate. And Carol, I think we appreciate you for somehow magically being able to lasso that energy into something that is actually can be implemented in reality. So I can't imagine how that worked, but I'm really impressed. So
I have really great routers, that's how it works.
So thank you both, and then Mike wanted to take it.
Well, I can echo some of what Lisa was saying. So when we first started talking about this several years back, we were doing this visioning and talking about wouldn't it be great if some of our students could they can move around from school to school, get the classes they need. We did all of that without talking with Carol first, because we were all just a little afraid to talk to her, so we wanted to make sure we had the vision down first. And Carol really has done a remarkable job pulling this off. When we first started talking with her about this, she reminded us that, you know, there's 200 drivers there, we do have a driver shortage, we can barely pull off every day what we're trying to do. And we said, yeah, great, so how are we gonna make this work? And she has made it work. It is amazing out of the box thinking, as Lisa said, and we appreciate everything you do for us, Carol, so thank you.
All right, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have our summer school program report. And Olga has provided us with an extensive written report here, but we're happy to hear any highlights that you would like to share with us.
I am proud to say that each summer, we as a district offer a variety of options for students to engage. I provided you with a report, my own report, so I will not take the time tonight to read all of the different parts that are in it, but I am here to respond to any questions that you have. But the report was included in your packet.
Any questions or comments for Olga, starting with Mark?
I feel like I'm talking a lot tonight, sorry. With some other board members, I had an opportunity to visit some of these programs last year, and I mean, it's just, the list is amazing. So, as we head into next year's summer program, please keep us in mind, because I would love to visit some other ones again.
Thank you. For sure.
Eric?
Hi, Olga. I just had a question about the kinder program. Is there, hearing from some of the parents from the PAC about the interest in wanting to learn on how to navigate the educational system, is there something that happens in that kinder program with the parents as well as they're coming in to our education system to learn how to navigate it as well?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is the greater part of the curriculum, is to involve the parents from the very beginning. All of the preschool programs that we are currently running during the year do provide that extra layer of support. The goal is that by the time the children enroll in kinder, the parents will have already received enough information in regards to how to access the support systems and how to navigate the elementary school system at least. And then we pick up again and then enroll in kinder and invite parents to participate at various levels, including PAD and other leadership types of opportunities.
For the high school 8.5 summer program, says it served 200 incoming ninth graders. Is there a plan to, and if I remember reading it correctly, it was students that were referred from various people to the program. Is there a plan to increase that participation as need arises, or?
We are hoping to increase it in the coming summer by expanding the option to English language learners, Title I students, and other students that might be interested. We were fortunate that we ended up receiving additional funding from the state, and were able to implement the Summer Bridge Avid program, first time in the history of our district, and it was very successful.
Great, thank you.
Mark?
That extra statement he mentions that Measure 98 funds, or will they come from different areas?
They came from ODE and to support ELLs and minor education students.
But also, Mark, I'd add too that 98 originally was just designed as a high school success.
Right.
But there was an additional rule that allowed us to spend money for 8th graders essentially to be successful transitioning into high school. So we have used that for the 8.5 summer bridge at the high schools.
One of the models that we used during the summer that came from Measure 98 was the student support system model. So we did hire an additional team that was made up of a wellness counselor, working mental liaison, family engagement liaison, early learning, and a special education specialist. So they made up that student support team. We had never had that before, and we found that having that team help not only the students but the families feel better connected and better equipped to support their children. Attendance went up, participation was huge. And overall, I can say that we have probably the best program we've had in years.
Thank you very much, Olga. I mean, just if anybody wants to dig into the details of this and read the packet, it's pretty impressive the amount of impact that we're able to have over the summer under your leadership, and we appreciate it very much. So, thank you. Okay, we are at item B4, student achievement and assessment update.
You're going to flip right?
Oh, I think that's. Okay, so student achievement reports. So this evening, my hope is to help you better understand the key components of the new at-a-glance report from ODE, as you know, first year for this new report card. Specifically, additionally looking at Hillsboro School District strengths and area of focus, learn how Hillsboro compares with similar and neighboring districts, and learn about the key components of the accountability detail report. There are 2 reports that are offered by the state. Look at our strategic plan work related to those areas of growth, and then about action steps we are taking as we continue to improve. I think as we go over our student achievement report tonight, you will see we have a lot of things to be proud of, and we have some ongoing work that we will continue to focus on. So the first thing, just a quick overview kind of this at-a-glance report. So the at-a-glance report on the far left side basically has the demographics, which includes the number of students that we serve, and then the breakout of our students and teachers. And as you know, we're a minority-majority school district, and some specific points here. We are 37% Hispanic Latino and 46% white for our student makeup. We have 28% ever English language learners, 124 languages spoken. We have 64% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch. And I point this out specifically because I will be referencing them in a few minutes. The first part of this chart shows the identified areas that the state has chosen in their report under ESSA. Starting strong, the indicator is looking at regular attenders, grades K2, English language arts grade 3, and I will remind you that this is SBAC test, so it is an English test. Academic progress for grades 3 through 8, individual student progress, so you will see in the detail report, we look at achievement, but we also look at growth. In the high school success, it shows 8th grade mathematics, and you'll see sort of the arrows up to the side that show the increase or decrease from previous years. On our chart, we see increase in all those areas. 9th grade on track to graduate, and then 12th grade on the time graduation. So this is the 4-year grad rate that's reflected in this front side. On the back of this sheet, it basically has our staff to the side who serves our students, administrators, teachers, educational assistants, etc. And then it has the key group breakdowns from the outcomes from the front side of this chart. So that's kind of the overall layout, which we will go over some details in just a minute. Also, we have this document. It's about an 18-page document, and it shows the 3-year averages in overall achievement for English language arts and math. It shows growth also in the grade bands of 3, 5, 6, 8, and 11th grade for math and language arts. Regular attenders by the same categories, 9th grade on track, the 4-year grad rate, 5-year completer rate, and on track to language proficiency. You'll also see this in the
district annual state report card that Beth's going to show you at the end of this presentation. So it's a little bit more digestible structure to read that in. Off to the far side, so it has the 3 years, the average, and then it gives you a level, and you'll see kind of the code at the top. It's overall believed that level 3, 4, and 5 are sort of on track or exceeding on track, and levels 1 and 2 would be areas of needed attention. These charts you've seen, we continue to add these each year just so you can kind of see them. Again, if you look kind of longitudinally for ELA, both in Hillsboro School District and also across the state, you see increases over time in English language arts, grades 3 through 11. In math, you also see some trends here. We see a decrease in student achievement across the grades in Hillsboro School District and also in the state. As you look at this, I just want to make a note that we have had the largest ever opt-out of math testing at 11th grade ever. We had over 80 kids choose not to take the test. I think that's true also across the state. The new legislation has passed in the last year that is allowing 11th graders to take the test early. In 11th grade, those of you who've been parents or champions of 11th graders, you know that it is the ACT and the SAT and the AP test and the IB test and the SBAC. And this one probably means the least to our students. And so I think the state has recognized that as well, and they're allowing our students to start taking that test in January. So we're coming up with protocols and guidelines to choose which students we might recommend or invite to take that test early. The math test tests through Algebra 2, so we certainly want to make sure students have had the content before they test, but we have quite a few students that are 11th graders who already passed Algebra 2 as sophomores, so that definitely plays in. This is our ELA by key groups, and again, patterns that we have seen kind of continue. We did see some growth in some of the areas, specifically with our limited English proficient students. We saw some growth in that area and some growth as in our district with our students with disabilities. Not where we want to see, but definitely some growth. Math continues to be an area that we want to focus on. And you know, this is a key strategy in our strategic plan as well. We did see some growth again in our limited English proficient students. Now, I want to throw this in because I want to provide some context. I think oftentimes people ask me, how are you doing related to other school districts? And I think we all choose Hillsboro because we are a unique and amazing place to live and grow and work and be educated. And I hope that you have seen this document. This came from, help me.
Ed Northwest.
Ed Northwest, thank you. And this was a report that was created based on graduation rates for 2013-2014, many, many years ago. And you will see that on this chart, basically it referenced graduation rate related to, what did they call it? Educational, what is it? Sorry, I'm going blind in my legislature. Educational Disadvantage Index. So they basically created this this impact ratio down at the bottom, and it looked at things such as English language learners, economically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities. And basically this research, when we kind of blow it up, there is kind of a line of best fit. So we know that in communities where students are not experiencing poverty, that students are not working to acquire a second language, that students do not have disabilities, they tend to outperform in terms of graduation rate, at least in this sample, over time. And so when we shared this, we were basically showing that based on our impact, our students were graduating at a rate higher than other students. And this was a point that we were definitely focused on and we were quite proud of. This study has not been redone. However, I think it begs the question, and it's something that we look at in OSP, what are the impacts that we know make a difference for our students? So I think as we look to that question, I think when we are compared to other districts, we have to ask ourselves, really, who is like us? right? Who really is like us? We are a very large district comparatively. We're the 4th largest school district. We have 37% Latino, which is unique and rare. We have a high number of students who have ever been ELLs, 28%, and our poverty rate at 64%. We're definitely unique in that regard. So when we start thinking about what we know about those factors, we know that when students are acquiring a second language, they need an optimal program. We have dual language programs in our schools that we're really proud of and we continue to grow. We have evidence that says that that works for our students in terms of helping them be successful in high school and beyond. Again, the research is really clear that it takes 5 to 7 years for our students to acquire English when they're in an optimal program. So when we in OSP look at our 3rd grade English language arts scores, we kind of say, okay, yeah, we know we want to continue to grow, but we know that we have students that are acquiring English, and we want to make sure that we look school by school to kind of make sure that we are seeing growth in that area. But when we look at who we are comparing ourselves with, we have some specific things. So I'm going to kind of yell from a distance, but I want to kind of give some specifics. So I pulled, I think these are 11 districts. We're the one in color right here, so you can kind of see us right here. I pulled 11 districts that we are sometimes compared to. I chose some small districts and some big districts. Sorry, Jessica. Did you say yes?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Small districts and big districts, and there's lots of different ways to look at these, but I think for our group of students that we serve, and I think it should be no surprise given the equity work that we have done as a board, that when we look at the impact of our students experiencing poverty, our students experiencing learning English as a second language, and just our diverse community, there's different ways that we can think about why we are unique. So what I did here is I kind of organized them based on the amount of diversity, specifically looking at our Latino students, because we know that our Latino students in Oregon definitely are often suffering an opportunity gap. And I think that's all of our goal, is to make sure that all of our kids, it's all of our engaging challenge, all learners to academic success. So if you look at this continuum, we start with kind of Eugene School District, which Eugene School District has 15% Latino students, 6% ever ELLs, and 50% free and reduced lunch. So you'll see that their English language arts scores are 52, whereas in our school district we're at 46. Our math scores are at 39, they're at 52 at 8th grade, but their grad rate is 74%, and we're at 84%. When you look at their K2 attendance, they're at 83% and we're at 89%. So there are certain indicators that we want to make sure that we notice and we pay attention to make sure that we are learning from people and make sure that we are getting those best practices. We are certainly not so prideful that we don't want to reach out to our neighboring school districts, but we also want to understand that we don't want to compare ourselves to school districts that are not like ours. We are sometimes compared to North Clackamas. Again, this is a really successful school district, but when you dig into North Clackamas, they have 18% Latino students. They're below where we are. Well, we have 37, almost double the amount. 21% poverty, 21% English language learners, and 41% free and reduced lunch, where we're at 28 and 64. So we have almost, between, where did that go? North Clackamas, sorry. 41 to 64, we know those are impacts. We have very similar on-time graduation rates, 84%. Our attendance is better than theirs. Our English language arts is within 3 points, but they are outperforming us in math. And we know that that's a key area that we are looking at. I think we've had discussions regarding math, that we're looking at schedules, we're looking at curriculum, we're looking at assessments. We want to make sure that we're creating the best program that we can for our kids. We look at other school districts that are here. We'll kind of dig into those in a little bit, but if we look all the way, I think the other thing that I wanted to point out with, We look at this is Woodburn School District, and Woodburn is 82% Latino, 68% ever ELLs, and almost all of their student population receives free or reduced lunch. They're at 89% graduation rate, and we're at 84. But when you look at those dipsticks of 3rd grade reading, they're at 20, and their dipstick of 8th grade math is 17. And I know sometimes people say, how can your grad rates be so high when your indicators on SBAC are not that level? And I think if you really dig into some of these other school districts that also have a very diverse community, we find that SBAC isn't always the easiest test for our students to negotiate and be able to do their very best work. There are other ways that we make sure that our students are successful. In terms of doing essential skills, I'd love to give a presentation on SBAC. It is super language heavy, especially in math. And of course, language and rigor is one of our key focus areas. But we continue to make sure that we dig in to our schools. So I want to dig in just a little bit here. So really, who is like us? So for Hillsboro School District, regular attenders, out of all these school districts that are sometimes compared to us, we are the highest in terms of regular attenders. We do incredible work in our district, making sure that our kids get to school and that we're there to support them and they're there to learn. When we look at 3rd grade ELA, if you look at all the school districts on those 3 panels that serve 20% or more of our Latino students, only 2 of the school districts outperform us in that area. And of course, we want to dig into those and look into those, but we're very strong for making those gains, and you see a 3% gain even last year. For 8th grade mathematics, we have plans to go out and dig into some other school districts, but again, 6 of the 8 school districts are below us in that mark. For 9th grade on track, there's only 1 school district that's greater than us, which is Portland Public, but their graduation rate is under 10%. So even though their students are on track, they're not retaining their students. On-time graduation, there's only 1 school district on all these panels that's above us. We're doing incredible work in our schools, being kid chasers, and making sure we're closing that opportunity gap. When you look into our detail report, when you look into achievement and 3-year averages, we see not the gains we want to see in terms of math. Again, that's definitely an area of focus, which I'm going to dive into in a minute. But we see lots of 3s and 4s. In our growth, we have really good growth, both at our school level, but as a district, almost all of our scores are 3s, 4s, and sprinkling of 5s. Our regular attenders, again, we're doing some incredible work. We've had the conversation about high school seniors in particular, and that is an area that we continue to make sure that we have students connected. 9th grade on track is, we have incredible success in all of our schools regarding 9th grade on track, and we continue to invest in that work. We just had a group go again to be retrained in Chicago. Our 4-year grad rate, we're starting to see a closing of the difference between our Latino students and our white students, while we continue to rise both. Our latest data shows an increase of our Hispanic on graduation rate by 5% and our Caucasian students by 4%, bringing them within 6 points of each other. And although I can't share it, I'm really proud of our next year's grad rates that are currently being cleaned up. Our 5-year completer rate continues to grow annually, and our on-track to language proficiency is looking really strong in our elementary schools and continues to be an area in middle and high school that we're focusing on, as we recognize a lot of our students are dual identified as being students with special needs and also English language learners at that level. So the question really comes is, what are we doing specifically about math, which continues to be kind of a focus. So we talked about our math adoption in 2011. We adopted Bridges, and that was right at the time that Common Core came into practice. At that point, there were not curricular materials lined up with Common Core, and we were a little behind in adoption. So we adopted Bridges. We've done some work with teachers since then, but we started purchasing Bridges 2, the 2nd edition, and we were able to purchase it for 3, 5, and 16, K2,
and then it's all in our schools right now. We also have the intervention kits that we are starting to utilize in the majority of our schools, so that as teachers identify holes in students' learning, that we are working with them. We are identifying exemplary practices and sharing them. We also have good data, so we can see which teachers are getting great results with kids and making sure that we're sharing those practices across our district. As we've discussed before, we have new assessment tools in K-6, STAR and iReady. STAR is a bilingual assessment that allows us to do some dipstick testing for students, and iReady is also being utilized throughout our district. And we're really making sure that we're focusing and ensuring ample time for our students to learn the core materials. Also Number Corner, which has to do with making sure that there's that number fluency and the numeracy, and then ensuring that we have enrichment. I think it's also important for us to recognize, I was listening to the PAC talk, and I think continuing to make sure that we're involving our parents and helping them understand what we're doing and the support that they can provide, and helping us do a better job of connecting and serving them. At the secondary level, we continue to focus on the PLCs and common assessments. In the last couple of years, we've had an incredible number of new hires in secondary and math, which is awesome, but it also lends itself to have an opportunity for more collaboration among teams to talk about best practices as they create common assessments and receive coaching and feedback, not only from their administrators, but from district level supports as well. Audrey and me, not so much me, but mostly Audrey, has been working a lot with the math teachers around the claim and target data in the last couple of years to help them understand what that means from SBAC to inform instruction. Principals are doing more in terms of supporting staff to work with their grade books. We're seeing a decrease in DF&Is throughout high school. We've utilized Measure 98 funds in the last 3 years to give everyday math to those students who need it. We started out with algebra, and many of the schools have added on geometry and algebra too. So our 11th graders are the first group of students testing this year who started with that sort of intervention. We're seeing more intervention after school throughout the day, utilizing peer tutors and avid tutors and avid coaches. We continue to focus our walkthroughs on looking at math best practices and helping to support our math teachers be the greatest that they can be. And we have plans to go out and do some visiting and learning. These reports are really awesome for us to see who is doing really well with populations like ours in order to see what kinds of strategies we can bring back and use to support our teachers. Additional areas that we continue to focus on, English language arts. The assessments that we're using in K-5 are great resources to inform instruction at that level. PLCs, we continue to do some great work. I think the more we articulate K-12 around our writing processes and making sure that we're scaffolding our language for kids is really pivotal to their success. Our graduation rates are awesome. Our high schools, middle schools are doing great work with our grad coaches, really, honestly, kid chasing and thinking out of the box. I am really proud of our high school team and Linda and Greg O'Mara, who are willing to do some research and some investigation around what other neighboring districts who are doing well as well are doing to meet the needs of kids. So we have some pilot programs that are kind of percolating. 9th grade on track again. We continue to work with the ESD and get that coaching from the Chicago group that helps us do a great job with that. Attendance systems and the support that Jen Johnson in particular has provided. She sits on the state council for attendance, and she's been an incredible resource. And then continuing to just focus on instruction. You've learned that our evaluation system this year is lined up with the 5 Ds, and for the last 3 years we've done dipstick data to see if the instructional practices we know make the biggest difference, that we're seeing growth, and we're seeing some great growth. So
I really believe that we are on the right track to continue to do great things for kids and learn from other districts, but also celebrate our successes in Hillsboro. So I'm going to let Beth show her report card summary real quick, and then I will field questions.
Yes, so I love how I get like equal billing with Dale, and I have about a 10-second part of this whole presentation. She did so great. So I handed out in hard copy to each of you the most recent state report card data compilation. I started doing this several years ago as just a way to kind of bring together all of the report card data into one place. I get that the writing is really small because there is a lot crammed in here, but once it's up on the website, you can zoom in and that makes it much easier. So it's really just those key data points from the school and district report card consolidated onto one sheet. And then I have replicated the color coding scheme from the rating details sheet and kind of colored in so that you have a bit of a visual, at a glance look at how schools are performing, how we're doing overall. And then I've also kind of collected some metadata there in the orange box below. 16-17 to 17-18 is apples to oranges because we do have the new report card this year, and that new report card is to some extent measuring things that are different than what's been measured in the past, and also they no longer provide that assessment of how you're doing compared to like schools or like districts, which we've had in the past. So anyway, I just share that with you for your information, and then we'll be getting that posted up on the website tomorrow.
All right, what questions do you have? Erin?
So I just had a question in regards to the graph because it looks like, is there any, I guess the question is there any particular area where the results actually does correlate to the graduations as we see districts that are like us? Like, for example, you mentioned like Woodburn, they're different in this area, but the graduations are higher. Like, what is is there a specific area that is a good tell sign of where we are? Because sometimes it seems like they don't actually correlate to that number, right? They could be lower here, but then your grads are higher. Or we are higher here, but our grads are lower. So I was just wondering, there's something that actually gives us a better understanding because it seems like hard to compare.
Yes, thank you for that, because I've spent tons and tons of time trying to dig through that. So I actually spent some time with Travis in the last couple of days saying, okay, I looked at it this way, I looked at it this way. I wouldn't say that there's a direct correlation, like if you just look at this one mark, you will see this. I can tell you that poverty, the more poor you are, the harder it is to have high levels of achievement and high levels of graduation rate. I feel like we're breaking that. I will tell you there is a correlation between the percentage of Latino students that you have and your graduation and achievement rate, the percentage of ESL students you have, and your graduation rate and achievement rate. I think the unique thing is for example, Woodburn School District is also a dual language district. A lot of their students either are in a bilingual Spanish-English program or in a bilingual Russian-English program. And I think in some regards, they're probably experiencing what we're experiencing in terms of our third grade students not being at proficiency in English to be able to perform, and also digging through the language issues that surface out of SBAC in mathematics. I think that's true across our state, and we see that trend line. So no and yes, there are some factors. I mean, I honestly am really proud of our data. I want our math data to be better because I know our kids are capable and they deserve to do better on the test. But I think as we are out visiting, that's some of the questions that we will be asking.
what are the materials you're using, the interventions, how much time do you have? I know we've surfaced that with the board before in terms of our schedule allowing for 60 minutes of math in middle school and the every other day of math in high school. And we've had that theory that has played an impact, hence the reason for everyday mathematics. And we are seeing a decrease in the DF&I scores in high school because of that. But it will be great to see how that manifests itself in the test scores this year.
And I was just thinking about like where we spend most of our effort and most of our energy in, we're looking at this particular scoring and it's because the test is given in English to our English learners and a lot of the components is that it's in English. It's not the knowledge that they don't know, but it's a test that we can. And if we're looking at those results and putting our focus on bettering those scores, when it really isn't that they don't know the subject, but it's how it's administered, right? So that's where I was trying to get, I guess, is how do we, I guess, as you go on and look and seeing if it's really that knowledge that is missing or something else.
Yeah. And I think that's where we've been looking for multiple measures, right? Like the STAR and the iReady as indicators of how are our students, can they share their knowledge in Spanish? And if they can, yay for them. And then how do we make sure that we scaffold the language so that they can, over time, show that language, show the skill in that language as well. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I was just going to add to Dale's answer there. Having those bilingual assessments is going to be helpful, and Dale's mentioned those a couple of times. I think the other thing we see with districts that have a number of bilingual students or emerging bilingual students is they're starting to put together their own report card, essentially. And I know Kim passed on some information in the session that some of you sat in on OSBA this last weekend, and we are also looking at that. What are the indicators that are going to truly reflect our students' ability? Because you can see we're outperforming with our grad grades. But we also know that our students have to make greater growth in order to get there, and that just takes longer time. So we are starting to put together those assessment indicators and report on those as well too.
Martin, can you work?
So I'd like to just ask that we see some sort of follow-up on these really low ratings. Generally, it's a very good report, I'm heartened, but there's one that just, I have to ask because it kind of shocks me. Hill High, 11th grade, 11%? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, they had 38 students opt out of the math assessment. Almost all of them were IB students that felt like they were taking many tests in the spring and chose not to participate. So assuming that those students would have passed, they would have shown growth compared to their assessments the previous year. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. So is it possible that we'll see some sort of follow-up? Like, just that answer gives me a lot more understanding on
Yes,
that.
thank you.
That this is just an insane amount of data to try to wrap your brain around.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
In 30 minutes.
Yeah, and if I could, I'd just like to make a comment that at the OSBA conference, there's a program called Forecast 5, and I'm looking at Michelle because I think it's hers to roll out. But that would facilitate this sort of.
I dug into it a ton in preparation for this. Yeah.
So what Forecast 5 allows is it allows you to develop a cohort of like districts and then compare across any one of a number of slices of the data, costs for this, achievement, participation. No matter how you want to slice and dice it, you can come up with a comparable to kind of give you some perspective. So
Yeah, and I did slice it one way and got about 5 districts, and then I sliced it another way and got some more. So that's kind of why I have a.
did you have to use Forecast 5?
Yes, I think Michelle has been an early adopter of Forecast 5, but I'm hoping, and I was going to say this in my comments, that that we somehow get some access, because I got to go on a session that looked like a lot of fun. So just to piggyback on that, since we're talking about it.
Thank you.
Mark?
In our meeting at the Civic Center, we started to do some data diving stuff. Are we planning to revisit that again sometime? Or is that like our only session doing that? Is that our only work session where we're gonna devote time to that? or-
No, I was hoping to, remember, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what month it is, but this isn't a one-stop.
It's November. No, I'm sorry.
All right, so just a couple sort of procedural questions on the, just to make sure I'm reading the graph right so I don't misunderstand. Back where you have the 3 intersecting lines and the 2012, 13, 14 one.
Yeah.
Right, so I think, if I'm reading it correctly, left to right is pretty much just demographics. We can't control where we fall left to right. Is that about right?
Correct. Yes,
And up and down, vertical is how well we're doing.
grad rates.
Right, and so, how would, forget everybody else, how do you think our position on this XY graph would have changed since 13, 14?
So Travis actually dug this up for me.
I did by hand, little pink arrows that take each one of those green dots. These were the districts that wanted to know this about themselves and therefore became subjects of the math calculations. So for each of those districts, I went in and figured out what their last available grad rate was, and I replotted it. So everybody but, I want to say Bethel, okay, went up like 4 or 6 points. So can you go back one, Dale, please? Our grad rate, you can see we're plotted like right on the 80 line.
Yeah.
We went up to 84. Beaverton went up to such and such. North Clack went up. So you can see a general trend of us all shifting up, but we don't, like you pointed out, we don't shift left to right.
So yeah, that's my other question.
Yes.
The line of best
Would we
fit,
have shifted left to right if we reevaluated this demographic data?
Well, you could, because it's
Are
based
we
on
now-
multiple factors. It's mobility, it's
Right.
disability, it's economic,
Yeah.
Yeah, is our student population more economically disadvantaged, educationally disadvantaged index than they were in 2013, 14 today?
by some measures, we're down. We were just looking at this today. Free and reduced lunch, we're actually down in our real count of students who have turned in the form.
Districts across the state are down due to the uptake.
Well, that-
Yeah, but then our report card shows 68% poverty,
Well, we also,
64.
they also had to opt in as opposed to just automatically being in,
Correct.
so that was a factor as well, right?
Yep. And so our schools, we were just doing a longitudinal plot graph of like our title schools, and they go up and down, they fluctuate. But I would say this is pretty static. I would say these districts cluster the same way. The line of best fit, as we improve our grad rates and do 9th grade on track work across the state, it moves up, and we're still outperforming it in grad rate. But the point of this, I think, contextually, like Dale was laying out, is you've got those districts up in the way upper left-hand corner that are very affluent, aren't very much impacted by students learning English as a second language, all the way down to the right where you have Woodburn, predictably down, more impacted by students who are learning English as a second language, living in poverty.
But their dots pretty high.
Their grad rate is way above the line of best fit. Their reading scores at 3rd grade are probably below it or on it. So that's where you could plot each data point based on the demographics of these districts. And what seems to be the ongoing problem in US education is that your zip code and your demographics to some degree make your school outcomes very predictable, and that's what we're trying to interrupt with dual language programs, great math instruction, CTE programs. So it's really interesting to track this, I think, over time.
So one more question, make sure I'm reading it right. Thank you. That was awesome. Back a few slides are, so the first circle graph, so was that it's page 3 or page 2 or whatever? Yeah, this one and the one after. So 89% are our regular K2 attenders, and like, that's pretty good over here.
Yeah,
We
we are
still got
the
11%. I mean, ingrained in those schools, what we do, we go to school every day.
That's
And
right.
at the outset of their academic career is so important. I just, and we focus a lot on our numbers with Hispanic students and how many we have in other districts. But so this next page, if I'm reading that right, our Hispanic and Latino students are at 87%. Right, so our average is 89, and so one of our, I would say, success stories is, even though 89 is not great, we like to have more than that, but our Hispanic and Latino students that we keep using for, they are coming to school most days, right? Is that what I'm getting from this?
True.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Jackie? I just wanted to clarify, back to what Martin said about Lopez math.
Yeah.
That percentage is based on all of the students in that grade, not just the ones who took the test. That's why opting out negatively affects this percentage.
Correct. The denominator is the number of 11th graders.
Not the number that took the test.
Correct.
Oh, okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I believe we dropped by 4% of students taking the test. We had a significant increase of those IB students at Hill High, but then we also saw quite a few more students at Liberty High School also opting out.
Until I graduated class only 450-ish.
Say it again, Susan.
Still high graduating class, 11th
Oh,
graders
Yes.
are lower than 350. Okay, so 38 kids is 10% of them? As we set out, right, 38%?
38.
Or 38, 38 starts, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably about 10%.
So that number is, even if they all pass, it doesn't bring it up. Does it bring it up to, doesn't bring it up to green, does it bring it up to yellow?
I would have to look at that cut score, to be honest, but I'm happy to do that for you.
Still not great though.
It's still not great, but it would have shown growth
Oh,
over what they had the previous year.
okay.
They would have been one.
Dale, could you talk a little bit about what the ELA growth and the math growth column actually does mean?
That the ELA growth and math growth actually means on the accountability detail report?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the accountability,
Actually, that's on Beth's stuff.
But that's where it's from, yep. The detail.
on this chart?
Uh-huh.
Sure. So the ELA growth and the math growth, this is directly off of this detail report on the district detail report. And so you can see that if you're at a level 3 on this detail report for growth, I believe it is, correct number, 45% median growth, so there's a calculation. But to see 3s and 4s, you kind of see those two columns are filled with lots of light green and dark green and blue. I mean, that's really for us where we want to make sure those are those apples to apples comparisons. So we're seeing what our students are doing one year and their average median growth into the next year as they take the test grades 3 through 8. So this to us is saying we're helping our kids grow from where they're at to the next level, even though they may not be hitting the line to pass the test. We are seeing good growth in the students' performance.
So if you just look at Brookwood, for example, the top school, and you come over here to ELA growth, it says 50%. Does that mean that half, 50% of the kids did better in ELA assessment year over year? Is that right?
It's the average 3-year median growth would be, it moved over to the 50th percentile mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of data rapidly.
There's tons of it, yes. And I swim in it, so if you have questions tomorrow, the next day, or next week, I love to geek out on the data.
I'm not seeing any other questions right now.
Oh, just kidding.
Are these included in our packet anywhere?
They're not, they're on the state website, but I'm happy to.
Right, they're not broken down like this. We have to go
Yeah.
and search each one and
You have to search each one, but I'm happy to.
I wouldn't have to, I can just take pictures.
And I'm happy to put them in a file for you. Yeah. These are just, again, these are the ones off the, what is it, it's not Fab 5, I want to call it Fab 5. Thank you. But these are the ones that when you look at, you just put in our school district, it will pull down that data, but then you can also manipulate things, like schools that have similar ESL populations, similar poverty, so I just pulled them all down.
One more question. Oh, two more actually, sorry. Erica and then Martin.
So I guess my last question is just as we, grapple with this information and the data, and we are continuously working on what are the things that are going to work for students, what actually makes the percentage go bigger, and especially with, we have like 3 schools that, are in the orange in our portion, and probably looking at the back, looking at past years, but what are the things that we have changed, and did that help or did it not? And that would be, for me, what I would want to get more information on, and then if it didn't, what is our plan going forward? What would be the thing that we're gonna try this time to see if it helps move the dial, one way, and then, what the recommendations is for us as board members looking at that, how do we best support, especially those ones in orange, to move the dial?
Yes, and I would say the short answer is that's kind of our ongoing conversation. I think that's why a couple years ago we started piloting like the STAR and the iReady at a couple schools to just kind of see how that influenced the knowledge that the teacher had about where the students were related to the standards. We haven't adopted, well, now we have because of Bridges too, but we haven't adopted new language arts curriculum in line with Common Core. And Common Core is a lot more nonfiction heavy, so we're really excited about this language arts adoption. But it allows us to have continual conversations about what are schools with similar demographics doing to get improved scores. And again, the orange, we definitely don't want to see anybody achieving at a level 1, but we also want to make sure that we recognize the growth that we're seeing in kids and really focusing on if you're not hitting that mark, then what are we doing to accelerate growth?
Mike and then Martin.
Thank you, Erica. Something I would add to that is, in terms of what the board can do, if you look at the 3 schools that are highlighted there, it's I believe our 3 highest poverty schools.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to what the board can do to make a difference on something like that, it really is making a bold decision to provide additional resources to a school that may need additional resources. And as you know, there's a finite number of resources to go around, so it is going to be that type of decision that we need to talk about.
Well, we're talking about schools that are surprising. It's worth calling out. McKinney is surprising. It's very high, and that's just wonderful. And so we're kind of looking, I called out Hill High, but I'd also like to call out McKinney, and just it's popping up here. It's a really high performing. That's good to notice. But what I really wanted to say was, it's interesting to me that I think you've defined for us our cohort now. And I'd often wondered, and so there's 12 districts here, and as I look across, in my gut, this resonates too, so it's nice. It's nice that you sort of established the portfolio of our competitors. We're forecast 5, cohort, is that the right term, or what's your term for this group that you selected?
Yeah, I would agree.
A cohort, yeah. It's interesting to me to know.
Yeah.
No surprises here except for Bethel. I seem kind of small, I don't know anything about it. The rest of them I completely understand.
Those are our friends who are in the work with us that we have much to learn from and much to share with, so.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, just as a response to when are we talking about this next, it is January, that it's on the agenda.
Bill, I was going to say thank you. And, I know that everyone on the staff of the district shares our philosophy of always getting better and continuously improving and analyzing what works and what doesn't and trying to improve as you go. And that's something that I have always really appreciated, and I do think it's important to recognize and highlight when we're not doing as well as we should. But I also think that it's important to do exactly what we did and look at where are we being successful, and that far outweighs the things that we're not doing well. So of course there's room to grow, and that's really important, but it's critical to recognize the successes. And when I first saw these, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, and I was like, really? I was like, oh yeah, I was just like looking at the things that I knew were more important than those SBAC scores. And I was really proud of our district, and I think everyone else in our community should too. So thank you. Okay, moving right along. We are at item E5, financial report. Michelle, as always, You compiled a wonderful report for us. Are there any highlights that you want to share, or are you just ready for questions?
Just ready for questions, if you guys have any.
Any questions or comments for Michelle? If your computer keeps doing what mine is doing, the financial report begins on page 19, because our computers keep shutting down and then taking away the place in our 128-page packet. It's a little bit frustrating. We're on page 18. Okay. All right, thank you very much, Michelle. Okay, we're at item F, information. Mike.
Yeah, so this is just a list of the administrative rules that we want to let you know there's some changes being made to. Not obligated, for you don't have to take action on these. This really is just for your information. This information is in the packet. Happy to answer any questions if you have.
Mark?
I just want to say I appreciate like how detailed some of these things are, like exactly what steps we're going to do when we close this, thinking about closing school for weather. So for all of you out there, it's in the packet. When it starts snowing, you're wondering, why are we going to school today? Because at 3:15 in the morning, somebody figured out where we're going to start for us. It's pretty amazing.
Give me your number. I'm happy to call you at 3:30.
We're looking for volunteers. Excellent. I don't see any other questions or comments for Mike. All right. Okay, so we will move to our consent agenda, item G. I know that Jackie had a comment. Do you want to share that before we make our motion? Or do you want to?
It's fine. I just, it's regarding number 3, which is the approved parent organization activities for liability insurance coverage. And I've already expressed this to Mike as well, so he's aware. I just want to encourage our parent organizations, because the makeup of our families in our district are so diverse, that we be very careful to be inclusive when we're talking about family events. I guess I don't have to go into too much more detail, but I just want to encourage our parent organizations to be very inclusive and careful with the names of their events.
Thank you, Jackie. Mark?
Yeah, before we vote or whatever we're going to do, I noticed that the PTAs, PTOs were listed, but I think the PACs meet in the school sometime too, and I didn't see them anywhere. How was that handled?
I'll look into that.
Right, so it's just PTO and PTA and events that were called out, but I know that, the PACs do meet in our school sometimes, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not enumerated in that list.
My initial reaction is that perhaps they're under a different umbrella as
Probably.
housing and federal programs, but it would be
Yeah.
lovely to know for sure.
I'll find out for sure.
Thank you. Okay, in that case, I am ready to hear a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
It's been moved by Erica and seconded by Mark that we approve the consent agenda as printed. Is there any discussion? Right, if you would like to approve the consent agenda as printed, like Erica moved and Mark seconded, please say aye.
Aye.
If not, please say no. Okay, wonderful, thank you. We are now at item H, action items, beginning with H1. And in my packet, that's on page 96.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Is Connor going to present, or are you ready to entertain a motion?
I'm ready to entertain a motion, or I guess since it's an action item, what we normally would do is we would do the motion and then there'd be discussion or questions. But you can present first if you want, because it is kind of a big deal. So.
Yes, we are very excited to present the ratification of the Hillsboro Classified United contract that will run from 2018 to 2021. And we've gone over some of those key components, and it was a part of the board packet. And I just want to say that it's been great working with HCU through this process. We appreciate our collaboration and our efforts to work together to try to support our staff in the best way possible, so thank you. And we are hoping today to have the board vote on this. And the next steps would be on Friday, HCU would then ratify it, and then the actual contract would go live. at that point. So those are our next steps.
Okay, I'm ready to hear a motion.
I move that the Board of Directors approve the 3-year collective bargaining agreement with Hillsboro Classified United effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021, as tentatively agreed to by the district bargaining team.
Second.
It's been moved by Mark and seconded by Jackie that we approve the 3-year collective bargaining agreement with HCU. Is there any discussion?
Just want to say thank you for letting me participate in this committee. It's been an honor to get to know some of the classified staff throughout this process.
I did not get to participate in bargaining, but I'm very excited that we've reached an agreement, and I am excited for Friday because I know that there are a lot of folks on staff that are waiting for the agreement to be reached, and I'm excited. So thank you for your work on this on our behalf, Mark. We appreciate you. Okay, it has been moved by Mark and seconded by Jackie that the Board of Directors approve the 3-year collective bargaining agreement with Hillsboro Classified United effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021, as tentatively agreed to by the district bargaining team. If you would like to approve that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
If not, please say no. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Number 2, award copier contract. Dawn, do you want to share anything about copiers?
It's that time of year, our 5-year lease has expired, and so it's time to renew a lease as we move down that lane. So you've got all the information. I am excited that what we're presenting is actually a reduction from what we started 5 years ago. So we're super happy about that, because we didn't think that was going to be possible.
Thank you, Dawn. Sure, Erica?
I just had a question about this. So in regards to leasing versus owning, have we done a cost analysis for our district? What would be best?
We've done a rough cost analysis, but what it comes down to is looking at these copiers. Our copiers, just our walk-up copiers in our schools, do about 19 million impressions annually. When you look at that over a 5-year period, what the cost we would end up making up for in purchasing outright up front, we would pay more for that in trying to get staff that can service them, that can pay for the parts, that can maintain them. We are pretty much, our copiers are pretty much done at that five-year life cycle. We don't get extended life out of them. We wouldn't want to keep these ones currently for any longer than 5 years. So it doesn't really pay off for us to continue to move down that road.
All right, I'm looking for a motion then.
I move that the Board of Directors award a 60-month contract to provide multifunction copiers and copier maintenance to Canon Solutions America Incorporated.
Second.
It's been moved by Martin and seconded by Jackie that we award the 60-month contract. Is there any further discussion, questions? Okay. Martin made the motion and Jackie seconded that the Board of Directors award a 60-month contract to provide multifunction copiers and copier maintenance to Canon Solutions America, Inc. If you would like to approve that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
If not, please say no. That motion passes. Thank you. We are at action item 3, elect a member to the OSBA Board of Directors, which is an extra special action item this evening because the newest member of the Oregon School Boards Association Board of Directors is going to be our very own director, Erica Lopez. And so I'm very excited. And so to that end, I'm ready to hear a motion.
I move that the Board of Directors cast its vote for Erica Lopez for the OSBA Board of Directors position 20.
Second.
It's been moved by Yadira and seconded by Martin that we cast our vote for Erica Lopez for the OSBA Board of Directors. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to say thank you everyone for your vote of confidence. And I'm also just excited to be part of that board, being that we are the 4th largest district and having our input and voice at that table.
Martin?
I'd just like for everybody in the audience to know this is a lot of work that Erica's taken on, and we should all be grateful. And I am particularly grateful to Erica.
I agree. I was really excited when Erica made the decision to throw her hat, and I think she's going to do an outstanding job representing Washington County. And I'm very in case I didn't say that already. Okay, so it's been moved by Yadira and seconded by Martin that the Board of Directors cast its vote for Erica Lopez for the OSBA Board of Directors position 20. If you would like to approve that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
If not, please say no. Excellent, thank you very much. That brings us to our final action item of the evening, vote on Oregon School Boards Association resolutions. We can find that on page 100. There are two motions here. I guess I'll just go a little bit background since Kim is not here. She would urge us as a member of the OSBA Legislative Policy Committee to support each of these resolutions. And so I guess I should say that in her stead since she's not able to be with us this evening. I'm looking for the first motion.
I move that the Board of Directors vote to support Resolution 1 to adopt the proposed 2019-20 OSBA legislative policies and priorities as recommended by the Legislative Policy Committee.
Second. It's been moved by Jackie and seconded by Yadira that we vote to support Resolution 1 on the OSBA legislative policies and priorities. Is there any discussion? Okay. So Jackie made the motion and Yadira seconded that the Board of Directors vote to support Resolution 1 to adopt the proposed 2019-20 OSBA legislative policies and priorities as recommended by the Legislative Policy Committee. If you would like to approve that motion, please say aye. Aye. If not, please say no. Resolution 1 passes. I'm ready to hear a motion about Resolution 2.
I move that the Board of Directors vote to support Resolution 2 to amend the OSBA bylaws relating to composition of the OSBA Board of Directors by designating the Oregon School Board members of color caucus a voting seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee.
Second. It's been moved by Erica and seconded by Yadira to support Resolution 2 to the OSBA bylaws, to amend the OSBA bylaws. Is there any discussion, any Mark?
Just a point of clarity, I think you would probably know, I don't know who would know, but this is separate. Erica's getting the seat at Board of Washington County,
Correct.
not the seat for caucus of color.
Correct.
I know you're involved in that, so, right, thanks.
Excellent. Any
That,
other-
it's not determined yet who would hold that seat. This is to establish that organization will have a spot.
Yes, that's accurate. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so it has been moved by Erica and seconded by Yadira that the Board of Directors vote to support Resolution 2 to amend the OSBA bylaws relating to composition of the OSBA Board of Directors by designating the Oregon School Board members of color caucus a voting seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee. If you would like to approve that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
If not, please say no. All right, Resolution 2 also passes. So Val, you submit our votes for us, right?
I do.
Among all the other stuff that you do for us, that's
I
what
do, and just to clarify, because of the size of our district, you guys have 2 votes for each of those resolutions.
Oh, nice.
Only 1 for the candidates, but 2 for the resolutions.
Just in the future, can we vote 2 different ways? Like, I don't remember that happening. I know we disagreed,
Yes,
but I
you
didn't.
could. You could
Okay.
cast your 2 votes to cancel each other.
Just in case you wanted to be troublemakers. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Val. We appreciate you. All right. I will do.
Good enough.
Okay, so now that is the end of our action items, and that brings us to HCU and HEA reports. We would love for you to join us.
Good evening. We'll start by thanking the school board for doing their part to ratify the HCU tentative agreement. The reason why we have this weird, because normally the union would go first, followed by the school board. That didn't happen, partly because of no school November, because of all the no school days. It makes it difficult to get everything together to where we can make sure folks have enough time to consider all the tentative agreements and make sure that they are able to be fully informed voters. It also allows us that if everything goes the way we want to, on Friday, payroll will be able to start implementing the change, which will give them almost a whole month to implement a major change to our payroll system to allow people to have the retroactive pay and the change to be in effect on their December paycheck. in time for the holiday shopping season. So it's something that I think that was a value, and I really appreciate the school board willing to do it sort of in this untraditional way to help us have that opportunity for folks to really get some support at the end of the year. So hopefully we will have our member who will agree with the bargaining team to ratify on Friday. I do want to just point out a couple things. There was I think it was on Dale's slide, and I noticed that it listed that we have 26 librarians. We don't actually have 26 librarians. We have 26 classified staff who serve as librarians because we don't have enough funding to actually have real librarians in the classroom, which is super important and makes a huge difference in people's lives. I don't know if you folks know, Tim Carlisle came by one of our schools recently, and he came in because he's a America's Santa, I believe, for Disney World. He's one of those things to come and visit the students in one of the libraries we had. And it was amazing how having someone who had huge amounts of experience in classroom management and being a licensed staff, how that class, for which the classified employee said is my worst class. They're always unruly, they're always, acting out. It's so hard to keep them focused and on track, but the moment that a licensed teacher is in the room, they're able to tag team behavioral issues, and kids were really able to have a positive educational experience that day. So I think just I wanted to highlight that hopefully with some potential increase in funding from Salem, if we're able to win that by working together, and we can finally bring librarians back to our elementary schools and our middle schools and high schools, because it does make a difference when you have a licensed staff in there for that time during the year. So, thank you.
Well, congratulations, Devin. That's exciting. I hope things go very well for you, and it's a little motivation for us. We are still bargaining. Our next bargaining is November 19th at the HA office, and then the 29th here, so from 12 to 7. It was exciting today to just hear a little bit about the opportunity for us to work together, and I believe our association has a couple lobby days, and so wouldn't it be amazing if we could get a couple buses and go down for lobby day? I think it's, Joe, is it in February, President's Day, and then
first day of spring.
First day of spring break, so maybe we can work together there to come up with a plan. That would be great. I had the opportunity to go visit my grandchildren in Spokane, Coeur d'Alene area, and I just wanted to let Lisa know that on Friday afternoon, this big white stuff started coming out of the sky, and we ended up with like 2.5 inches of snow, but I had packed my chains and my boots and things. Lisa's from Spokane area, so I have one of my student teachers, we've stayed friends, and she teaches in the Central Valley at McDonald. And I had the privilege of spending 2 hours in her kindergarten classroom on Thursday. And I walked in and I looked around and I was like, Kylie, where are all your desks? And she says, this is it. I have 16 students.
Wow.
And it was amazing. I have to tell you, it was amazing. And so it was motivational for me when I left there thinking, wow, we have to do something, because it truly does make a difference. It makes a difference in their behavior, how engaged they are in their learning. So I just wanted to share that, and hopefully it will motivate you as much as it motivated me that the time is now. We have the opportunity, I think, with the election last week and the results, and I think the time is now. So, thank you.
All right. Discussion time. Starting with student representatives. That's you, Jessica.
Okay, give me 1 second. I kind of have a little bit to say tonight. One thing, especially this is over all 4 high schools, our YAP Team Youth Advisory Council is running a TEDx conference, and it's typically independently organized TED event surrounding youth called TEDx Youth at Lincoln Street. And it's something where if a student is passionate and they want to talk about, or a topic that the youth has a special perspective on, they can go and talk about it. And this can range anywhere from mental health to immigration to sexuality identification to education and so much more. And its applications are happening now, so that's something really big that's happening with the students. It's taking, I'm thinking you guys might not have an idea about this, but that's taking place again. I think this is their second or third year doing this, and so it's been a big hit before, and it's something that they love for the board to attend or possibly to even now know about. And it's April 26th at the Cultural Arts Center in Hillsboro. And then the second thing more centered around Century is that 3 years ago, Century hosted NAAC, which is a national leadership conference, which was super big for Century to be able to host because every 50 states was represented there. And part of that, our leadership team created these massive poles that were decorated according to each state. And we've taken it upon ourselves to put those up in our high ceilings on the walls. And that's located in our cafeteria, so I thought that was something to add just as a way that we're representing every single state in the United States and something that the students can always kind of look at.
Thank you, Jessica. Superintendent's time.
All right, just a few things. Had a great turnout for the Career and College Pathways Steering Committee last week. I was reminded the dedication of the staff that creates those pathways and make them work, as well as the community members and business partners that show up to that. Absolutely a great collection of people that are committed to that work. So it was a great event for us. The last couple of weeks have also had a retreat with all of the superintendents from the Northwest Regional ESD area. And during that retreat, we reaffirmed our desire to work together and to collaborate and to continue to build efficiencies and make a difference for our staff. See Stephanie's here. The staff for the ESD do a great job with their professional development that they provide to the superintendents. It's always relevant, and they just do a great job with it. Hasn't always been that way, so I'd like to celebrate the fact that it's going really well. Two other events. The best part of my week always is when I get to visit classrooms. I was over at Lat Acres, and there are a number of events that take place in November, the student conferences and the opportunity for the parents to meet with the teachers, all very important, but just be assured that the teachers are on it, and November is a very productive time for them. So we had a great time visiting the classrooms. And finally, thank you to the board. All of your dedication really showed as we were at the OSBA conference this last weekend. Your commitment and your willing to dive in, and the energy that you brought is much appreciated. So thank you very much.
Okay, Board of Directors, I'm Jackie. First time ever. I know. Martin?
I'll just say, I also did get a chance to participate in the OSBA conference, and it was really a very good experience for me. This is my second fall, and on top of that, one of the summer ones. It's just really awesome. And I want to share what Mike said. As a member of HSD, people statewide are noticing HSD for a lot of reasons. A lot of the things the staff are doing, a lot of the things that the students and schools are doing, and even us as a board and us as a community. The bond continues to be talked about, how we can, as an indicator of the community support for K-12 in this area, and that's really good stuff. And I just wanted to echo that it was a very good experience for me. I think the takeaway, sort of the macro thing for me, was everybody in the state, from all corners of the state, all political orientations, we're all talking about how do we adequately fund K-12 education. There is a shared understanding that it's underfunded significantly. The terms were $2 to $3 billion, and that came from R's mouths, and it came from D's mouths, and it came from nonpartisan school administrators' mouths. So the scale of the challenge for us as a state is kind of known. The trick is going to be how do we come up with $2 to $3 billion. So there's going to have to be real discussions of revenue, and nobody wants to break business or hurt farmers or tax support, and so we got to figure out how to thread that needle and come up with $2 to $3 billion more. there is just an understanding that every school building across the state doesn't have enough adults in the building to meet the needs of the kids. And there's a whole variety of programs that work. We know exactly how to get the level of success that we need to do as a state. And I would commend to you the quality education model, QEM. You can Google it and read the executive summary, and it's a primer on what we need to do and what it's going to cost to do it. And you add all that up, it comes to $2 to $3 billion. And the only reason there's a range of $2 to $3 billion is because we're talking about K-12. But when you really understand what it takes to make kids succeed, you get into pre-K and early reading. And so that's where there's a range of investment that the state could make that would move the needle on student success and, of course, ultimately culminate in graduation rates. And every milestone along the way. We talked about a lot of tonight, early reading and 8.5 and AVID and all these things that we know make kids successful. So it was really exciting. The conference was really focused on advocacy. We mentioned OSBA a couple of times this evening. That's the board, that's the statewide board for Oregon School Board Association. So all of our cohort and most of the superintendents come as well. And so it's an amazing informed group that really understands the challenges of education, and we put together a whole 3.5 days of focused all-day sessions on it. It's pretty intense stuff. It's like the PCC, for a weekend. And it was all about advocacy. So drop an email to your state legislator, drop an email to your state senator, drop an email to the governor. There's 91 people that we need to make this decision. 30 senators, 60 representatives, and the governor. So pick out your half dozen and start communicating. Thank you.
I also had a chance to attend the OSBA conference this past weekend, and thank you folks for taxpayers supporting us being able to attend. I don't think it's poor use of taxpayer money for that. Careful about Bend. It's a little expensive when we go out there, but try not to go to that every year. But I think the one in Portland is easy because we don't have any hotels. So I'm glad that we had so many people there. Lots of uplifting sessions and lots of sessions that are just the grim reality. Mike and I attended one together on PERS, and towards the end of that, people were walking out behind us saying, I got to go to something more cheerful in the afternoon. So it's a thing. So thank you for allowing us to attend once again, and we all come back motivated and looking to try to make a difference. To build on Jessica's point, the theme of the TEDx Youth Conference is Shatter, and I can't think of anybody better than the students of the Hillsboro School District to figure out what's going to shatter the status quo and bring forth the next cool thing. To Martin's point, I know we have lots of data indicating how reading at third grade level is a predictor of success. If you could share with us data at some point on how big of a predictor, or what's the predictor of being ready for kindergarten? What does pre-K do? Like, is there an accurate data that says if kids come to kindergarten and we don't have to catch them up before the third grade, how much better off are we? I know we're the K-12 system, we're the K-12 school district, but we do so much pre-K involvement already, and I think, you look at the funding, you heard the term braided funding a lot today, or over the weekend. The schools have been asked to do more and more and more. Mental health and behavioral issues are one of the biggest things we face every single day in the classroom. And is that Health and Human Services that's supposed to take care of that, or is the school district? Well, the school districts take care of it, and that comes out of our budget. And so I'd love, if pre-K is not technically our thing, but it impacts the entire career the student has. So I'd love to know, I think it's pretty important. They come to kindergarten ready to go. So I wonder if the data bears that out. You don't have to make all those, just send me the names of the, I've been in that system a ton already, so just send me the names of the 11 who are our cohort and I'll find them.
That's good.
And my apologies for the next meeting. Depending on my employment situation, I'll either be attending remotely or have to skip it. I'm not sure which, but know that I'll be here in spirit, and thanks again.
So I had the chance to be at the career and college steering committee, and that was awesome. We learned a little bit about the different programs that are going on. Travis talked about how this demand in these skilled trades has gone up over the years. And I experienced that personally because last week my furnace broke. And I had to call, not kidding you, 5 companies before I can get someone that could come in like within the last like 3 days of, to come and fix it, where everyone's like, oh, we're booking out like a week and a half and stuff. And so when I finally got someone out there, I was asking, like, is this like a busy time of year? They're like, no, we're always busy. They're like, winter's, the furnace and the heating, summer it's the cooling, and they just, I had a really hard time. So I am so glad that we are looking at all these different career paths that our students can take, because yeah, those skilled trades are super important as well. I mean, college is important also, but having our kids look at all that's available is fantastic.
I also attended the conference this weekend, and it is jam-packed, and it's a lot of information to take in. You almost want to do everything, but I think it's also a really great opportunity to meet and see what other districts are doing, and so that we don't have to recreate the wheel. Like if we can, I'm always looking for like, if we can copy a successful thing, that's what I'm always interested in. And to Martin's point about advocacy and how much that's going to be so important this year, I think it's not just ourselves, but it's also talking to your neighbors and your friends and your other parents and telling them why it's so important. Having time to call or write legislators and senators, and I think getting other people also involved and fired up about advocacy is going to be huge. And I think our community, as we have seen, is really becoming so civically involved. And this is just another thing that we can put right in front of them and say, we need your help, and our students need your help. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that information and making sure that we provide, how do you advocate? I think a lot of the information or presentation that we had from the PAC is, from parents wanting to know how to navigate the system, but it's also important to teach other community members how to navigate advocacy. What does that look like, and how can you do that? And it's important for us to showcase that, but also to teach them that, because it's going to come back in the way of funding our school district and our Oregon education the way it should be. So we're ready for the challenge.
I also had the opportunity to attend a conference this weekend, and it's always outstanding, and I always come back with a huge list of ideas, and it's a lot of fun for Mike. Yeah. But I attended a couple of really great sessions. I got to learn a little bit more about our ninth grade success that we're doing within the ESD, and so that was really fascinating. And the big takeaway I got from that was finding the time to talk to kids, the people who are the stakeholders of that system, and all the interesting ideas. And it was they made us reflect back to our ninth grade experience, which was a very interesting. It was an interesting session, so it was a good time. And then learning about all kinds of great ideas that folks from around the state have implemented to improve attendance and impact suicide rates in their communities of youth, and all sorts of things. And so it was great, and I love that we are talking about advocacy as a cohort of 1,400 school board members from across the state, from 197 school districts. Like you said, every corner of Oregon, people are realizing that the way that we are funding education is not working for our kids, and that's not a partisan issue. That just needs to be a priority. And the messy stuff that they deal with in Salem, that can be partisan, but advocating for our kids isn't going to be anymore. And I think that was a really inspiring takeaway that we had when we were leaving. So I'm really excited. Okay, our next meeting is December 11th, and we will see you here, or we'll see you upstairs or here. All right, thank you. We are adjourned.